is ready, she will be able to address you, and the number that appears next to your name is the order in which the hands were raised. So it's very easy to see that Virginia should be addressed first, then Samantha, then Dr. Judy, Jesus, Lorraine, Gloria, and so on. When you have your question or your comment taken care of, all you need to do is to click that icon once again, and that will put your virtual hand back down. So please find your name in the box of participants. If you see a number that is still listed next to your name, just click that little box with that blue hand and you will put your hand down. Well, thank you so much everyone for your participation. I really appreciate it. The next feature that we will go over is going to be the chat section. And this is going to be the quickest and probably easiest way for you to participate in today's session. Please go down to this section on the left-hand side of your screen. Click once in that skinny white rectangle. Please type in a short message. Maybe you want to tell us where you teach, what you teach, how the weather is today. Type in anything you like and then click send. Your message will show up to us with your name next to it. I know that you see the word me, but the rest of us do see your name, so we are able to see who said what and in what order, and you are welcome to use the chat area at any time during today's session. If you think you may have missed a question or a comment that came in, you can always click and drag that tab, scroll on up to see previous messages, but when you are done, make sure that you click and drag that tab back down. If that tab or that little oval is not at the bottom of that scrolling section, you will not see the new messages as they come in. So just make sure that once you have reviewed those previous messages that you scroll on back down. And thank you for all of those great comments coming in through the chat section. Next, we're going to talk about changing your status. If at any time during today's session you need to excuse yourself, that's okay. You can click that blue door icon that is underneath the box of participants. Please find your name in the box of participants and click that blue door icon for me just once. What you're going to notice is that your name becomes italicized and the word away shows next to it. That's your way of telling the moderators that you have either physically stepped away from your computer or maybe you have just diverted your attentions elsewhere, like a phone call or an email. When you're ready to show that you have officially returned to the session, all you need to do is click that blue door icon a second time, and that will show that you are back here and ready to go. So once again, find your name in the box of participants, and if you see that the word away is still showing, just click that blue door icon and that will remove the word away. The next feature we're going to talk about is the polling. On your screen you should see the check mark and the X. Please click on either one of those right now, and whatever one you select, you will notice that it appears next to your name. This is a great way to participate if there are any questions that get asked. The check mark by default says yes, the red X would be your way of saying no. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually change those polling options. So find that section and you're going to see that in just a minute, instead of having two options, yes and no, we're now going to have 5, the letters A through E. So let's get ready to actually use our polling. Is this your first time in Illuminate? If it is, please find that blue capital letter A underneath the box of participants. Click that for me now. If you have been in Illuminate before, please find that blue capital letter B and click on that. What you'll notice is that the letters are just kind of off to the left of where that little hand is pointing. Once you have selected the letter of your response, you should notice that it appears next to your name. So thank you. It looks like quite a mix. Some of you have been in Illuminate before, so welcome back. And others are using it for the first time. It is great to have you here. Okay, let's do one more polling question. Of those 5 options up on the screen, which one best describes your role? Click on A, B, C, D, or E according to the options that you see up here. Samantha, you said that it's hard to see your name because it's highlighted in blue. That's okay if you just click on anyone else's name. It will highlight their name in blue. It really doesn't mean much of anything. Great, thank you for those responses. And we definitely have quite a mix, so thank you. And I am going to put those statistics on the whiteboard just so we can take a quick look. What we see is that there are quite a few of us, in fact 27 who responded, who said that they are a teacher. 3 picked a tutor. 7 picked option C, that they serve as a counselor. 17 picked the option D, they serve as an administrator. And then there were 11 who picked that great category of other, and 18 did not respond, so thank you for that. Let's do one more quick polling question. What do you think about the tasks we've talked about? If you think they're very easy, click A, easy, click B, somewhat difficult, click C, or difficult, click D. And don't worry, there is no right or wrong answer. I see a few of you have logged in multiple times, probably by mistake. I'm going to try to remove those duplicate entries so that you are not hearing any type of echo. When you are logged in 2 or 3 times, that's typically when you do get an echo. Okay, looks like everybody is doing well. I see lots of A's and B's. Thank you so much. We're going to talk about one more quick piece of Illuminate, and then I will turn the microphone over to Judy. If at any point you would like to use your microphone when one of the other participants is not using it, all you need to do is click that little microphone icon in the bottom corner. Now please be advised that you would need to have a working microphone that is hooked up and being recognized by Illuminate. You will click that button once to activate your microphone. You'll want to speak to us, and remember to speak slowly and clearly. And then when you're done, click that button again. That will release the microphone back so that someone else can use it. If you need to adjust your own volume, on the screen you can click and drag that tab all the way over to the right. That will make your volume louder. If you need to decrease it and make it quieter, click and drag that tab over to the left. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you now have a better idea of how Illuminate works. So if you are ready for today's topic about career pathways, give me a smiley face now.
Well, good morning, everyone. Give me a smiley face if you can hear me. Great. Just wanted to make sure my audio was working. All right, the first thing you'll see is our title page. We have named our program Career Pathways to Success. And by the way, if at any time I'm going too fast or you just need me to slow down a little bit or clarify, don't hesitate to let me know that. I tend to talk really fast when I get excited about something, and this is a topic that we're definitely excited about at WTI. I am Assistant Director for Adult Education here at Withlacoochee Technical Institute, and we're part of the Citrus County School System. I will let you know that this is our 2nd year of implementing career pathways, so we've had a little bit of experience. The wonderful thing about being part of adult ed in Florida is that we've networked with some wonderful administrators and practitioners in other districts, and we've learned a lot from them as well. So this is all about sharing and learning from each other. I'm going to go ahead and click to the next screen and just start out with this. This is the conversation that we had when I first began this role, is what is it we're really trying to accomplish for students. And the bottom line is that we all have dreams of creating personal success. We want a fulfilling career, even though we might be totally divergent in our thinking as far as what we want for ourselves. But everyone has that goal of doing something that contributes to their family, as well as providing them with something that's fulfilling for themselves and that they can see themselves enjoying for a long period of time. We all want to make the world a better place. We want a better lifestyle. For many of our students, they need a way out of poverty, and dreams of finding a way to support their family and affording the life that they want. I'm going to start out by giving you just a little bit of background on the grants themselves. Initially, the Department of Ed offered 10, and then it ended up being 11 grants to start looking at building career pathway transition opportunities for students in Florida. And what they were looking for, the priorities were transitioning within the next level of adult ed, for instance, ABE to GED. It could be ESOL into ABE or GED, but helping our students complete and move on to the next phase of their education. We also looked at transitions to post-secondary education, and that could be within a CTE program, an industry certification program, or a community or state college. Career exploration and planning. I'm sure most of you have heard the same answer that I hear when a student comes in and begins a GED or ABE program, and I say, okay, great, now what are you going to do after your GED? And very, very often the response is, I have no idea. I've had a number of students just flat out tell me, I don't have a clue. And they don't. They really don't. They know they need to do something, and they maybe have a vague idea. Sometimes they really don't have a clue. Career exploration and planning is really a big key component of the program, and helping students identify a career pathway for them to follow and to jump into. And then the other thing was for us to develop a career pathway transition plan, something that was tangible, something that students could walk away with, something that would help us track their progress along that educational and career path while they were enrolled in our program. So why focus on post-secondary transitions? Projections from the US DOE tell us that by 2016, more than 75% of the fastest growing job sectors will require some level of post-secondary ed. And that means a year of something, and usually that means an industry certification. And what we're hearing from Peggy Land and some of the other folks up at the DOE is that in Florida currently, that's over 90%. So no longer can someone graduate with a great GPA out of a high school program and expect to get a job that provides for their family above minimum wage. So this is a need for all of our students, whether they're traditional students or they're adult ed, and of course our focus is those adult ed students. And these ABE students, GED students, they are the future workforce and post-secondary systems next students. So we have to do a great job of helping them figure out where they're really headed. Adult ed is one of the building blocks of Florida's economic and workforce development efforts. There's nothing more gratifying than for us to find out that one of our GED graduates has gone on to complete a post-secondary program, and they're now earning a great wage. So what do we need? What do we know? We need to improve student transitions from developmental ed, ABE, adult high school, GED, and English literacy, or ESOL classes, to those credit-bearing post-secondary programs, particularly for low-skilled adult workers. Students must earn an industry credential or college degree to obtain a job that allows them to support a family above the poverty level. We need to track student transitions within education and then through their advancement in the labor market. Part of that is so that we can improve our programs, but it's also a requirement that we have. And so we've had to work at our school of coming up with some ways to really do that and to do it effectively so that the data we gather is something useful for us. And I'll share our database with you in a little bit so that you can see how we're doing that here at WTI. Any questions so far? If the pace is okay, could you give me a smiley face? Great, I appreciate that. I tend to talk very quickly when I'm on a roll, so don't hesitate to slow me down. All right, we will have opportunities for questions a little bit later on too, but don't hesitate to ask those as we go. All right. Adult transition to post-secondary grants. These were the initial grants that rolled out. And yes, I see a question, will we receive a copy of the PowerPoint? I'm going to interject very quickly before we go any further. I'm going to be sharing a number of resources, some tools that we've developed, and at the end, within a day or so, Yari Payne from the Florida Literacy Coalition will be sending through email a link for you to go and complete an evaluation of the session. And I welcome any comments and suggestions for how to improve this in the future. But once you complete that and submit it, Yari will be mailing to you, each participant, a CD, and on that CD you'll get copies of all the resources that I'm going to share with you today, as well as this PowerPoint. So you really don't need to worry about taking lots of notes. You're going to get all this. All right. And I see that there's a hand raised. Do I need to check on that real quick? I'm looking for you. Hang on. All right. I'm going to go ahead and move on. Adult transitions to post-secondary grants. And again, this was the first round. They provided $100,000 of funding for 11 districts and colleges. We were very fortunate, and I'll be honest with you, very surprised when we received that. But we had some dreams and some plans already in place for our program, and we jumped right in. The grants initially included components such as advisory committees or partnerships. They wanted us to look at our advising processes and support services that we offer to students. Curriculum alignment. We really had to take a good long look at what we were already offering in our CTE program and looking at how that aligned with career pathway models. Bridge courses. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on. Career planning and adult career pathways. The grant allowed for flexibility in developing a transition system that met our local needs, knowing that we already had partnerships, most of us, with our workforce councils, workforce boards, and that we knew our local economies, what jobs were available, and what our student population looked like. So that was an opportunity for us to really do some analysis. And I recommend that. Most of us are already involved in that all the time anyway, but it really helps you to get a better feel for what your goals are. In our program, and you will get a copy of our initial grant on that CD, as well as the grant we just submitted for round 2 of this funding. And that way, again, anything that you feel would be relevant, you're welcome to take and use. And all we ask is that if you find out something great or you find a new resource, that you share it back. So the features for our program is we did develop an advisory committee, and we looked at improving student performance, how we could do that, what areas we needed to look at first. We developed an enhanced intake and referral process that was utilized through student services as well as through our adult ed department. We looked at enhancing our recruitment and retention strategies. Again, a lot of looking at what we already had in place, what was working well, what wasn't working so well. Goal setting. Coming up with a better way of not only asking students to set goals that met the requirements for adult ed, but really help them get a handle on where they wanted to go in life. And then part of that too was developing a needs assessment. And that wasn't just based on academics. We looked at needs in terms of their personal lives, their families, their finances. And I'll show you some of the workshops that we developed later on. Career counseling, we've adopted career choices, you'll see that. An advanced academics program, we've implemented GED+, but we've also pulled in a lot of other resources that are geared towards helping students prepare for CPT, ACT, SAT, and just really focusing on those advanced math and writing skills that students struggle with and just passing the GED test. Academic support, we hired a tutor as part of that initial grant that would focus on she focused specifically on those advanced math and writing skills. And then student workshops to help them overcome some of those barriers to program completion and that transition process. And then we did a lot of staff development and disseminating information both to students, to other practitioners, to folks out in our community, letting them know that, hey, we're here, what we offer, and also let them know that employees, family members, anyone that needed services through adult ed, we wanted them to be aware of what was available. Our advisory committee was and is comprised of adult ed students, and because they move in and out, that's sometimes challenging, but we've had a couple that have really hung in there with us, and their input is invaluable. WTI administrative staff, all of our administrators are there for council meetings. They hear what's happening, whether they're a CTE administrator or adult ed, because we now know that those worlds overlap and need to overlap on a constant basis. Our student services staff, counselors, as well as some support folks, adult ed and CTE instructors, College of Central Florida staff. We have a great partnership with the College of Central Florida, formerly the Central Florida Community College. Dr. Lauder, the provost of our local campus, actually offers 3 full scholarships, 2-year scholarships to 3 of our GED graduates every year. And that has been a great motivator and, again, helping us with that transition process. We do have workforce board members that serve. And as a CTE school, we also have program advisory councils for each of our career and tech programs, and we've tapped a few of those folks to also participate in this advisory committee. What's wonderful is those folks, as busy as they are, they really see the relevancy of this effort and how it can impact our community and their individual businesses and the boards that they serve on outside of our school. So they've been wonderful in participating. Our vision when we started out is that all adult education learners would have an active career pathway plan before they left our program. And that's taken many forms, that they come in as an ESOL or an ABE or an adult ed, and in some cases they're coming in, they already have a diploma, but they're in our applied academics class. So the plans look different from student to student, but they are tailored individually for each individual student. All right, this might be a point where I need to stop. Is there a question so far regarding the content that we've shared? Feel free to raise your hand and I'll try to address some of those. All right, Ms. Jackson, if you want to chat in a question. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and keep going. If I see something pop in, we'll address it then. One of the things I mentioned is that we wanted to look specifically at our intake and referral process. We wanted to assist students in identification of their goals and then identification of support needs and services. And I see that I'm seeing a question about what are some of the barriers, and I'm going to address that right now on this slide. When students come into adult ed, as all of you know, they have barriers that just, there's a wide span of needs. Some of them have issues of finances, and that takes many different forms. Others have child care needs. They don't have anyone to care for their child while they come and attend a GED or an ESOL class. Some of them just honestly, they really don't know where to go. They have no resources. They don't have any direction in terms of career goal. Some of them are hungry. Some of them are afraid they don't have the appropriate clothing to come to school. They don't have transportation. We've had folks that have come into our program that they don't even know where to go to get documentation of residency or Social Security cards. We literally hold their hand through pretty much all of those things. One of the things we found out, and it's a bullet a little further down, is that probably the biggest barrier, the biggest 2 barriers for our students were transportation and child care. And we've been fortunate in that we've been able to develop a program for child care for our adult ed students. We fund 2 teacher aide parapro positions, and they actually provide care for infants and toddlers of GED students during the day. We've actually had that program in place for 2 years. And we have a church literally right across the street from our school, a brand new facility 2 years ago. They opened up their entire infant and toddler wing and gave it to us. We ended up having to write a contract and negotiated that between our school board and the church. But they basically, because it had to be a contractual agreement for insurance purposes and liability, the school board attorney at our school, at our district, said that in order for that to be an executable contract, there had to be an exchange of funds. This church offered us their facility 4 days a week at no charge. But they did finally issue us an invoice for $10 a year, and they agreed to the contract, and that is while we're on their premises in that particular part of the building, we have sovereignty over that part of their church while we're in residence. And their church folks do not come in, they don't utilize the facility, it's really all ours. And that happens Monday through Thursday from 8 o'clock until 2:45, and we've had that in place for 2 years. This coming year, we're actually moving that child care facility back to WTI. We had some classrooms open up due to moving some programs, and the nursery will be right here in the same building as our GED classes. And we're actually changing the hours of the program. It'll run from 11:45 until 2:45, and again from 4 o'clock until 7. And we'll be providing infant and toddler care during the day, and then in the evening time, late afternoon, evening, we'll provide infant toddler care and after school care for school-age children and provide homework assistance. In the middle of those 2 shifts, we're going to have an hour of family literacy time built in, and those 2 shifts of students will overlap. And they'll have opportunities to do make and take activities related to literacy, developing number sense and language skills for students, things that they can take home and do with their kids at home. We're developing a library for checkout of books and books on tape, etc. So anyway, that was one way we overcame child care needs. Transportation, we were able to provide some busing through our school board with underage GED students, and we've been working with our local transit system. We're fortunate enough to have one it's limited, but it runs, and we're able to meet the needs of some of our transportation that way. We also provide referrals for services outside of the school. We provide referrals to our Family Resource Center, to health, the health center. We give students information about how to access health care, etc. within our county. We also do a learning styles assessment, and we provide mentors for those students who need them. I see some questions. Edith is asking, do you have trained staff that help students with the use of Florida Choices? Yes. In that initial grant, we hired a career transitions facilitator, and she's been working with me, just completed her first year, became Florida Choices trained, and initially she was doing the Florida Choices training the Florida Choices interfacing with the students. She would actually get them logged on, help them get started, in some cases even work with them individually as they process through Florida Choices. Throughout the course of this past year, we've also had guidance counselors, support staff, and our instructors have all been trained in the use of Florida Choices, and we kind of share that responsibility. In a few minutes, I'm going to show you the database where we record that information as part of their transition plan. But yes, we do have trained staff, and we participate in the DOE training. As far as Florida Choices being presented to low literacy or limited English students, again, for those students, we provide some hand-holding. Jennifer or the instructors themselves will actually sit with the students and process through, sometimes read through it with them, and help explain some of the questions so that we're getting accurate responses so they get the kind of guidance they need. The next question I'm looking at is from Christine. Should the district be responsible to give the local school partnership leads? I'm not really sure I understand that question, so if you want to provide clarification, I'll try to address that. And I'm going to move on until I see something else. All right, our advising model. What we've tried to do, and again, we keep tweaking it and adding to it and revising the guides that we write for it, but it says we make the experience personal. What we stress with the students is this really is all about you. When we're working in career choices, the questions you answer don't have right or wrong answers. It's really about you. And the more it's about you, the better results you'll get in terms of guidance to help you choose a career path that really makes sense for you. For most of our students coming in to adult ed, the whole educational system for them is it's a maze. They can't make sense of it. They're not sure where to go to ask questions. They're not even sure what questions to ask sometimes. There's a lot of anxiety when we talk to our students who say, you know, I'd really love to go to college, but I know that's not possible, or I know that, you know, that's not for me. We ask that why question. Oftentimes we find out that their perception of college is very, very different from reality, especially when we're looking at a local community or state college. And one of the ways we've gotten around that is through our local campus. We've had opportunities to allow students to go and actually audit, especially at the beginning of a term, where they're not kind of like the new person, everybody's new in the class. They can actually sit and listen to a couple of classes and see that it's really not that scary thing, and these people look just like I do. We also provide that opportunity in our CTE classes, so they can see that, you know, I can picture myself here. This is not anything scary. We also serve as a clearinghouse for community resources, and I threw in a little snapshot of our information center. We have an entire wall that's just filled with brochures, anything from information about our programs to how to apply for WIC, how to get help with child support, local health department locations, etc. And then we also coach students. Our slogan is empower rather than able. We want them to learn how to ask questions, how to advocate for themselves, how to tell someone when they need assistance and they're really not sure where to turn. So we help them develop questions ahead of time if we know we're going to have them call the Family Resource Center, if we know that they need to talk to someone at the health department. We coach them. We help them write the questions out. We coach them. Sometimes we'll sit with them while they make a phone call, but we don't do that for them. We may do an introduction over the phone and then hand the phone to them, but our goal is to help them be self-sufficient when they leave us. I'm going back to some questions real quick. I see Christine says, do we have to find our own partners or should we depend on the school district to develop partnerships? Our school district does have partnerships with certain businesses and individuals, and we certainly tapped into those. But as an adult ed center, CTE center, we reach out a lot when we're looking for places to have students intern for CTE programs, developing relationships by speaking at Rotary, speaking at the Lions Club. In fact, I did a Rotary presentation yesterday morning. We do a lot of reaching out and letting folks know, first of all, you know, this is what we do, this is what we offer. Our goal is simply to help students. That, you know, we're obviously part of the school system. We're not a profit-making organization, and we're really looking to partner with you. We partner with pregnancy crisis centers, with even some of the local schools as well. We ask them to refer parents who they know don't have a GED or struggle to participate in their child's education. So it's just a constantly, you know, it's always in flux. We're adding a lot of new people, a lot of new connections, partnerships, and relationships was the word I was looking for. External resources such as child care support. We provide child care here. We've been fortunate enough to be able to build those positions into our grant. We also have utilized some volunteers, but again, you have to follow the rules in your district or your school for how to bring volunteers in that are going to be working with children. So we've hired our own. Hope Connections are working, Macario and Kim are working behind the scenes with any of those technical issues, so just keep letting them know. The question about our staff. We have 2 full-time adult ed instructors and we have 6 part-time. We also have a full-time career transitions facilitator. We have 2 aides that work in our child care, providing that infant and toddler care, and they are CDS certified, so they work with, you know, they're licensed to work with infants and toddlers. We actually share the registrar and data secretary with our CTE, we're Adult Career Tech Ed Center, so we share those resources, and we have 3 guidance counselors on staff that we share with our CTE folks. So it's just kind of a divide and conquer kind of a mentality. I'm the administrator for adult ed, but I also have other responsibilities in my center besides adult ed. I oversee all of the extended daycare programs in our county, for instance. So we're not a huge county, but we just figure out ways to make it happen. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next slide. Our our advising model comprises both individual and group. We do meet with students on an individual basis. We utilize our counselors, our facilitator. I actually do a lot of those kinds of things as well whenever I can squeeze it in or if someone's not available. But the facilitator and the counselors actually coordinate that transition process by providing that academic and career counseling. And again, I've already mentioned that our instructors are now on board with choices. They see the relevancy and have actually reached out to CTE teachers to provide some choices exposure. So when a student comes to a CTE class or transitions into a CTE program, we wanted those instructors to really see what had been done ahead of time to help that student choose that program or that pathway. It has provided some structure for the intake and orientation process. It's not as here's your tape, go to class kind of thing. It's really a focused, what's the next step after GED or ESOL. It does outline their individual personal goals. And again, I've already mentioned choices, and we do use it extensively, so you'll see that mentioned a number of times. We also have a mechanism to collect data in our student survey and student action plan sections of our database. We have developed a local database here. What we report to the DOE and to NRS obviously is limited, and for us to really make good decisions for program improvement, program evaluation, we needed access to data immediately. The database we've developed is on a central server. It's available to all of our instructors, our guidance counselors, myself, our facilitator, and the director of our school. And what happens is when a student shows up at a class, they have their tape score, they have their schedule form, the teacher actually enrolls that student in our local database. And that has to happen within 24 hours. So I, within 24 hours as the administrator, can open up and see at a glance within a 24-hour window who's enrolled in each program, what levels they're at, if they've already done an official practice test for the GED, also what the progress is in terms of getting their transition plan started, if they've enrolled in choices. And I'm actually going to go ahead and I'll do a little application sharing with you real quick. Let me pull up our database so I can show you exactly where we do that. Hang on there for a minute while we open this up. Okay, show me with thumbs up, I guess we'll do it that way, if you can actually see the database, if it says Adult Basic Education on your screen. All right, awesome, terrific. All right, this is a view of our local database, and I will tell you, you are going to get this in the shell. And what I mean by a shell is it has all the same functionality of the database we're actually using, but what we've done is we've eliminated all but about 30 or 35 of our students. We've changed their names and their identification information to make it obviously anonymous and to protect confidentiality. But you'll get this not in a read-only or a PDF. You're actually going to get this as a working database. So if you find that it's something that might meet your needs, you'll be able to go in and tweak it, work it, change labels. And yes, this is an access program. We did not purchase any new software. We did not hire anybody to program for us. This is something that we've developed. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. This has made my life so much easier, and I am much more able to provide answers to questions that are asked by folks outside of our school, as well as questions that I need answered from ourselves. So great. I'm glad to see everybody's excited about that. And yes, you will get this along with a PowerPoint guide that my secretary's developed to help you kind of get the feel for how to process through it on your own. We are actually hoping to present this again at the ACE conference too, so you might be looking for that. I'll do a little marketing. We presented the early stages of this at ACE last year, and it was well received. We've had lots of folks who have been to visit our school. They've been to visit our district and see this used live. We've also shared it with the DOE. Craig Winger has seen this and endorses it as far as it meets the requirement for that local relational database that we were looking for. And yes, you will be able to manipulate this to your district needs. As long as someone knows how to use Access, we've purchased some, Access for Dummies and the Access 2010 Bible. We're able to process through this. And I will tell you, this started out as just a lot of spreadsheets. And then my secretary, who had a little bit of Access experience, turned it into an Access database, imported my spreadsheets, changed the labels to match the information that we enter into our terms, our DOE database, our mainframe, where that was applicable. And then we've been able to add and tweak as we go. So what I'm going to show you real quick, and yes, you'll have access to the database once you get your CD from Yari Payne after you do your evaluation. I'm seeing from Baker County, is this just for admin or instructors also? Our instructors have full access. We back the database up locally here every single day. So if someone goes in and does something that may or may not cause a problem, there's no fear in that. We keep telling our instructors you can do whatever you need to do in here. It automatically saves when they close, so they're not going to lose their data. And yes, it is accessible for instructors. In fact, more and more we're pushing them into utilizing it on a daily basis, not only for data entry, but also to pull information they want to see about their students. So I'm going to go ahead and slide this navigation window over so you can see more of the main screen. Now let me take a quick break for a little fluid. Okay. And by the way, Baker County, Ann Watts has a copy of this already, and Samantha, you're welcome to talk to her. She's seen this demonstrated at our leadership symposium a couple weeks ago. All right, let me go ahead and show you. They've developed a switchboard for me, and I know just enough to be dangerous about the behind the scenes about this, but it is just a phenomenal tool. When you click in here as an instructor, and I'll look at this from an instructor's perspective, they would go in and click on data entry form. And what they will see initially is this screen right here. If a student is coming in new, they've never met the student, they would actually click in this last name menu. They would click on Find Student, and they would type in the student's last name and click Find Next. And when it says the search item has not been found, that means that currently there is no one with the last name of Johnson in our database. So they know for sure that this really is a brand new student. And they can go ahead then and cancel that out, and then they would go in and actually begin adding this information. Now, I've built in a little bit of time in their schedule so they have time for data entry. They don't have to take time away from their instructional time. But the requirement is, and that's just when you sign on to Teach Adult Ed, that this database is updated within 24 hours. So if they had 2 new students come in tonight, for instance, they would have this updated by tomorrow night, and I'd be able to see that the following day. The really awesome thing about this is our registrar gets a flag whenever new information is added. So as soon as she opens up our database here at our center site, she sees that new information has been added, and she knows to go there, pull it up, look for the documentation, and then that's where the information is transferred into our mainframe database for terms, for NRS, for DOE. But at this point, they would enter in that student information. The nice part about this database is all of this information that is here stays on the screen no matter where else you go and access. So they always know what students are looking at, even if they get interrupted for a moment. And I'll slide this over a little bit. When I open this up on my computer, I see everything, but because of the navigation window for Illuminate, it's a little more restricted. I do see a comment from Jack that says his fear is more paperwork for the teacher. Let me tell you, that was something that we addressed very early on. In our district, we had a purple form for enrollment, a goldenrod form for TABE updates, a purple form for withdrawal. We had all these rainbow-colored forms, and every single time a student entered or withdrew or updated their TABE, they had to generate a new form, and they would have to put the student number, all the student information, enter the scores, the historical piece, and there was a lot of paperwork. They don't do those forms anymore. It's all done on the database. So they go in and update, for instance, this student record. This student comes in, they take another TABE. The instructor, Mr. Mitchell, would go in, drop down, put his name, go to the tape test date. He would put it in for today, and actually we have a drop-down menu even for the calendar now. It's right here. The student took the test today. They took a 9D, or they took 9D last time, so let's say 10D. And that's the other thing. This historical data is always there, so they know what form the student took if they're going to be administering the retape. And at that point, they would go in and add the rest of that information. We are in the process of adding scale scores to this particular form because I want to be able to use that as an advising tool as well as a tracking tool. If the student's test was out of range or we're retesting sooner than that 60-hour window, they make some notes here. And it's not in your shell, though I can update that later on, but we've actually added about 9 different choices in the drop-down menu, so they can just click if it's student is leaving, student is transferring to a new program, student is ill, whatever they say, they're here, so they can just quick snap on it to let us know that there's an exception to that 60-hour rule. And then over here, and again, that's where we added those comments. So that's in the database that we're currently using. Also, our district, I'm seeing from Eugene, do all of our teachers and counselors have access? Yes. Can they manipulate it? Yes. Is there anyone ensuring the accuracy and legitimacy? Yes. Our registrar double checks everything before it's transmitted into the mainframe and submitted. Over here where you see my cursor, you see adult ed fee receipt number. Based on the new legislation and the new requirement for us to collect fees, we're using the 30-30-30. The process is that once the student takes their TABE, they go to student services, they meet with a counselor, they're scheduled for their class, they're then given their schedule, and they go up to our bookstore, they pay their $30 fee, they get a numbered receipt, and that is taken to the instructor along with their TABE score report and their registration form. So when the instructor gets that initial packet of information on that student, they actually type in that receipt number. We could have just put a checkbox, but we were thinking ahead to when an auditor might visit and want to see not only the mechanism for collecting that money, but also how we're tracking it. That number actually corresponds back to our track system, which is how we do all of our finances in our school system. And we're able to actually go back and track that money for an auditor or just for our own purposes. So that's how we'll keep track. GED scores, of course, if they've done a prior test and they're here just to retest, that's all there. Their official practice test that they've had one would be in there. And right here is where we begin the career transition, career pathway documentation. So initially when they meet with a student, the guidance counselor, for instance, might go in and enter just this initial piece. But then our career transitions facilitator or later on a counselor would meet with that student again individually, and they would get them started on choices. And these next panels will show you where we do that. This particular student was interested possibly in information technology. At this point, they were looking at a tech program rather than a college program. They were looking at the program here at our school and had no work experience. I see some other questions, some nice comments. Thank you for those. Do you interface with workforce programs to see if they're eligible for payment of some items through ITA? We don't interface electronically with them, but we do interface with them through just the relationship we have. And yes, we do. Some of our students get funded through our workforce board for their CTE program, which also will sometimes pay for their uniforms, their tools, and those kinds of things. And then it says, are your guidance counselors hired through the school at large, or do you employ your own? We're a team. There's a director and 2 assistant directors at our school. Actually, we had 3 assistant directors, and one of those was cut due to budget. I'm sure a lot of you are experiencing those kinds of concerns. And I participate in those counseling sessions. If it's a counselor that's going to be specifically handling the GED chief examiner role, then I take the lead role in those interviews. But our director's always involved, as well as the CTE administrator, and I'm the adult ed administrator. So we team up. It's a tag team kind of a thing. I also see a question about the period of time the $30 covers. Our terms are entered into our WITIS windows as August 8th for this coming year through December, I believe it's 19th, then January 4th through May 25th, and then we also have a term that runs from June 1 through July 28th, I believe it is. So those are our 30-30-30 terms. How do we verify Florida residency? According to the DOE rule, and that's what we do. Prior to July 1, if they've been enrolled, we don't have to document their residency, but if they're coming in after July 1, we'll be documenting it according to the paperwork that's just come out from Tara Goodman's office and Loretta Costin's office, and they have to show that primary Tier 1 as well as that Tier 2. So I hope that answered that question. Do we have a skills assessment in Spanish? There is a Spanish version of GED. There's a Spanish version in Choices. At this point, that's as much as I can tell you about that. Question, can instructors take the database with them as they aid students desk to desk? Our facilitator does have this database. It's wirelessly connected on a tablet, a Dell tablet. But our instructors have laptops, and they all connect wirelessly at each of our school sites where they have the evening program satellite sites. So yes, they absolutely can do that. As far as the database, you're going to get a copy of that once you do your evaluation, and it's sent to you by Yari Payne at the Florida Literacy Coalition. Those who live in Georgia, I can't answer that. If they're enrolled in your program locally, then that's something that you could address through your adult ed folks. Is establishing residency done one-on-one? That's done at Intake and Student Services in our county. You'd probably have to ask in your own county how that's handled there. All right, I've got a lot more to cover. I'm going to run through the rest of our slides and then we'll go back to some questions. Academic prep, this is where we document if they've participated in any of our support workshops or any of our tutoring sessions. If they've actually been placed once they leave GED, or they're co-enrolled, and sometimes co-enrolled maybe in a CNA program. If they're placed in a program, a post-secondary program, no matter what it is, that information is entered here. If they take the CPT test, that's entered here. We also have a panel for a meeting log, and you'll see here every time they meet with our career transitions facilitator, she enters the meetings, what the focus was, what the obstacles were. Let me go down here and support service. If they come up with a strategy or a follow-up, or they're going to get a referral to an organization outside or inside of our system, and then what kind of follow-up is indicated. That's all entered here. And then assessments is the last panel we have at this time, and that is for CPT. You'll see here if they've done any kind of CPT. And then here is career assessment. This is where Choices is entered. So in Choices, once they've done interest profiler, let's say, once the facilitator has registered them for the program, they actually take the assessment, the date that it's completed, and then that information, let's say that it comes out that they are interested in a marketing pathway or a medical pathway. Back here on career plans, that information then would be entered. Their career field of interest would be entered. Drop-down menus, and again, you'll have all that access. If they've been linked to a school, I don't know, Jones Wales, a school here that would offer a post-secondary program, that information is also entered, and we're able to, again, track that and follow up. We didn't really know any other way to do that. It made sense since we have the database to build it right in here. Choices is accessible to students all the time. Once they're registered, they have access to it. And our goal is to have them do their initial Choices eval within the first 2 weeks of enrollment. So we have a handle. And the main reason for that is it's motivating for them. All right, I'm going to turn off application sharing and go back to our webinar and show you a few more things real quick. The advising model provides students with workshops, tours of the post-secondary institutions that they're interested in, at least the ones that we have local access to, and they get a full packet of information about programs that we offer here, as well as the partnerships that we have with folks within our community. These are some of the workshops that we've had this year, and we've actually had with the DOE office, Careers Office, Pedro, who has come down and delivered some of these workshops along with Jennifer, our transition specialist. But we have some focus specifically on goal setting, time management, organization, financial literacy. We've worked with local bank reps to come in and teach students about handling checking accounts, savings accounts, why those are important. We do some test-taking skills workshops with them, both with our tutors as well as with Jennifer and myself, just teaching them about study skills and how to study smarter rather than longer. We do financial aid, sometimes in groups, sometimes one-on-one and hand-holding, and we also teach them that navigating the post-secondary application process. And for some of them, especially Jennifer, will actually sit down. She's our transition specialist. Will actually sit down and walk through that application process, even helping them with editing their application, editing their essay that they might need to write. We have many GED completers who do reach the minimum passing GED scores, but they lack those skills to transition. They don't pass CPT. They end up in those non-credit bearing classes. So again, that's why the focus on the GED Plus and those advanced math and writing skills, where they typically have the most problems. Posters, brochures, and flyers. You're going to get copies of some of those things on your CD. I can take you out and show you just a couple real quick. Again, I'm going to go to the application sharing, so bear with me for a second. All right, what you're seeing here is just the brochure that we initially developed to give to students. As soon as they come in and inquire about adult ed, they're given this brochure. And again, you'll have a hard copy of this. You feel free to take it, use it, or develop your own, but let me pull up the second page of that. And forgive me, this is my first webinar. I hope it's not really, really obvious, but I'm looking for my page 2. Let me go to, hang on just a moment. There it is. All right. This is what the inside looks like. We actually show them what the career pathways and clusters look like. We talk about what they'll receive and participate in as part of our program. And initially it was called Pathways to Your Future. We're now calling it Career Pathways to Success for this next year. But then we also let them know that they have opportunities for enrolling in technical institutes, private schools, etc. And the back again gives them information about how to access our counselors, how to access Jennifer, myself, and also where our sites are located. So you'll have that as well. All right, and thanks for the positive feedback. And again, this really is my first one. So we'll see. Depending on your feedback, we'll decide whether it's the first of many or the last we do. Our GED Plus class is offered before or after. Actually, GED Plus is offered within the actual GED program. So if a student is working at, let's say they're working at 10.5 or 11.4 or whatever level of the GED curriculum, and they have indicated that they really have that goal of going on to college or an LPN program here at our school and they need assistance, we don't wait. Our instructors start implementing more advanced levels of curriculum. We've got, you know, just the materials that we use in the GED class. We've got them at the A level, and we've also purchased a number of resources that students who are preparing for ACT, SAT would utilize, as well as that GED Plus. Also, we have a tutor that works her way around the county, makes appointments with students, appointments with instructors, and it's kind of a whatever it takes kind of mentality, but it's embedded within our regular program. Okay, the next slide talks about, she actually shows you a couple more samples. We have a poster that we put in the health department, in the in the pregnancy crisis centers, elementary schools. You know, hey mom, do you want a better life for you and your baby? We also have these posted around our school. We also have posters that we put in businesses, in the hospital, just anywhere that anyone will let us hang a poster, those are there. And you'll have these same resources available to you on your CD. All right, and thanks for the positive feedback. That helps. And there's a quick screenshot of the brochure. All right, what outcomes? We're hoping to see increased retention and persistence. The transition facilitator is actually here today running some data reports, so I'll be able to include some of those in your CD. I can tell you we've seen a drastic increase in our completions, transitions, but can I give you exact numbers today? I can't, but I will include some of that information on your CD. That I'm pulling all that together and sending that to Yari on Monday. So we'll give you some more information there. Obviously, an increased number of adult ed students who enter and complete post-secondary. We don't want them to just enroll, but we want them to complete. I'll give you one very, very brief story. We had a man this year who started with us in the early fall. One of those stories that we hear all the time in adult ed that just kind of breaks your heart. Early 40s, 3 children, had been a drywall installer since he was in high school. He dropped out of high school at 17, got offered a great job, making good money, got married, and he's been a drywaller his whole life and making a decent wage doing that. Well, economy, housing markets, fall out, and here this guy is without a job. Well, in the middle of all that, his wife left him. And so now he's the person raising 3 kids, and he doesn't have a job. He's never applied for any kind of assistance, doesn't even know how to do that. And you will not believe this, I'm not making this up, this man's home burned down, and he and his children were left homeless. He and his kids moved to Citrus County. They moved in with his elderly mother. And he goes to our workforce board to try to get some help to find a job. And they tell him, hey, buddy, you got to get your GED. And that's really what he told us when he came in. Literally fell out. And we've seen adults cry and, just they're at their last nerve. They're out of resources and they really don't know where to go next. And yeah, poor guy is right, but I'll tell you there's a really happy ending. He enrolled in our GED program, lots of life experience, a really focused guy, great motivation. Obviously, he's got 3 kids that he's raising. He finished our GED program before Christmas, matriculated transitioned into our solar energy program, 600-hour program, finished that at the end of May. His kids are doing great in school. He is now employed. He walked across the stage at graduation, and he's a different person. That's what we do in adult ed. That's why we do what we do. So anyway, those are the outcomes we want to see. That is why we do it. We also wanted to reduce the number of adult ed students who need remedial college prep classes. And another partnership we have is with our partner CF, College of Central Florida. Becca York, and I'm calling names because these are awesome people that I work with. Becca is the manager, the coordinator of the Educational Opportunity Center at the Lecanto CF campus. She welcomes our students with open arms. If they are headed into a college, it doesn't even have to be CF. If they're just college bound, they can come in and access free practice CPT tests, free tutoring, and free resources to help prepare for CPT. And we have seen a reduction in the number of students that need those resources as well. And I've already mentioned to you that CF offers students, 3 students, free scholarships for 2 full years, 60 credit hours at that level. And of course we want students better prepared for the workforce, so we've done a lot with employability skills as well. Career development, we talk about, we really hammer this with our students. You're not here just to get a GED, you're here to develop a career pathway, because GED isn't going to be your ticket to a job. Finding your career pathway, getting an industry certification or degree, and knowing what to do when you get to an interview or get an interview is just as critical as that GED. Career Pathways provides education with a purpose. It gives a context for academic achievement. If I'm the instructor and I know my student is headed towards a CNA program or a industrial machine maintenance program or an auto service tech program, I can tailor some of the examples I use to help them grasp academic concepts. That's that contextual learning piece. That's made a difference for our instructors and our students. They see the relevance of what they're learning, and they're more apt to persist, to stay, and to not give up. They're motivated. It provides a level playing field because, again, with career pathways, not all of us are going to be folks who do a job in an office or at a computer. Some of us are going to be hands-on. That, again, helps our instructors know better how to meet the needs of those students. That guidance for pursuing a career, knowing what's next or what comes afterwards. It provides that interdisciplinary link between adult ed and CTE, and our CTE teachers are now trained in contextual learning, and they understand that critical thinking, problem-solving approach to helping students make connections between the academics and the hands-on CTE program that they're involved in. And we keep telling our students, just because you finished your solar energy program or your welding program or your CNA program doesn't mean you're done. Go on and be an LPN or wherever your path takes you. Again, that career planning component is now embedded within the classroom. And can I tell you guys, we're not there. I mean, we're in the process. Our teachers are all trained in choices. They're all using choices, but they're at different levels of how they're using it and their comfort levels. So we haven't arrived. I want you to know that. We still have not arrived. Career exploration, that learning about career clusters and pathways, and then developing that plan are all components of that. Again, we've added that 16 career cluster piece. The DOE has now added the energy piece, so you'll have a 17th one here shortly. I see a question. How do you manage accountability when students don't come to classes on a regular basis? Our teachers are asked to call students, to contact them, to email them. I also follow up with that, especially if they're a student who's accessing our free daycare resources, because I tell them I'm holding a spot for you and your baby. If they're not coming, I'm giving it to somebody else. That's a big motivator. Also, just finding out what the problem is, if it's transportation, if it's illness, whatever. Oftentimes we can help provide access to some resources or guidance in accessing resources to overcome whatever that barrier is. And we always, always, always tell our students, you're always welcome back. You may be out for this time, but don't forget we're here and we want to help you, and we'll welcome you back with open arms. So they know that we care about them. They know that the door's open. And sometimes that's all it takes to get them to come back. It just depends. We have the same issues you do. As far as how many students in a class, it varies. Right now in our summer classes, we have 14 or 15 actively enrolled in the ESOL class. If I could pull up the database, I could tell you right now on the spot. We have about 6 or 7 enrolled in the online, so that number's quite low right now. And we have I think 15 or 16 enrolled in our morning GED face-to-face class here at this campus, and probably 20 or 22 in our evening one, and another 15 at the satellite site we're running during the summer. But typically on the rolls, we have anywhere from 28 to 35 at maxing out, but they're never always here at the same time. So again, I hope that answered that question. I'm going to move on again real quick. We just wanted to show you a quick shot of the DOE link that shows you how the DOE ties in with career pathways. Initially, we adopted the CORD model for those career clusters and pathways in our initial grant. That is actually now adopted by the DOE as well. So that kind of gave us a little bit of a head start. The next frames, I'm just going to whiz through them real fast. These are some common terms and definitions. They actually come from careerclusters.org. If you have some confusion or you want to share this with your staff, the difference between career clusters, career pathways, career specialties, what are knowledge and skills, what is a program of study, and what is a personal plan of study. The personal plan of study for us is what we documented on our database for students. So again, those are just some resources for you as well. And again, how do they decide which pathway is right for them? We utilize career choices. Within choices, there are all of these different resources available. And we focus specifically where you see that red circle, the interest profile, the work values sorter, and that basic skills. We ask them to start out with those at a minimum. And they're again, they're all about the student. There's no right or wrong. It's not threatening for them. It's really affirming for them. And it helps them better focus the things that they've always thought they might be good at to what they really might be able to use to earn a wage. And then some tools down here, we do get the students involved in using those. And oftentimes Jennifer or the instructor, and sometimes I will sit with them and we'll actually help them get started and then ask them to bring their finished product, print it out, bring it to us, and let us help them tweak it or edit it or whatever. Choices is free. The Department of Education pays for our subscription. And yes, you have free access. Your students don't pay anything. You don't pay anything. The DOE takes care of that for us. And the training is phenomenal. It's painless. And that's also free. And you can access that by emailing Peggy Land at the DOE, Department of Ed. There's probably other folks there as well, but Peggy's the person that I always go to. They will also send you free bookmarks, brochures. The bookmarks are a great way for us to put the students' log-on information when we give it to them so they have something to hang on to. And it just facilitates that. They don't forget about it. Oh, thanks for that. Somebody just put the link right there in the chat box. And you can go there and again, you log on yourself, set up your own portfolio. I set myself up as a student and found out that the things I'm personally involved in my life actually fit my skills. It came up with, for me, that I would be a great adult ed instructor. I might want to look at school administration, and that I might be interested in ministry, working with ministry. I do all those three things in my real life, so that was rather affirming and a nice way for me to say, hey, Choices really does work. Because the questions I asked or answered in Choices really didn't have anything to do with those things. But it was interesting. It was a lot of fun to do that. So while you're off in the summer, if you have any time off, that might be something you might want to do. Staff development, a big component, and I know I'm really running out of time. So I'm going to just quickly tell you that we've had a year-long focus at WTI in making connections between career clusters and pathways and the curriculum frameworks for our CTE programs. So all of our instructors, regardless of which side of the house they sit in, have been participating in those initially awareness workshops, and then later on, you'll see in just a second, some really hands-on involvement. We had time in whole group and department meetings, small groups, talking about what transitions look like. Look at your adult ed students that you currently have in your CTE programs. How are they functioning? Where do you see gaps or needs? We also explored the articulation agreements that are on the DOE websites in the career and adult ed section. Between our CTE programs, so that our CTE instructors were more aware that their programs actually qualify students for college credits in many cases, and now they're pretty articulate with that. This next bullet, the fourth one, is what I'm so excited about because they have begun working in teams to develop career pathway roadmaps for each of the existing CTE programs. They are still a work in progress. They are in draft form. Some of the links aren't even complete yet. But I'm going to give you what we have on that CD so you can see where we are, what we've done so far. You can take them, adapt them, tweak them. But one of the requirements for this year's Career Transitions Grant was that each recipient would develop career pathway roadmaps for their programs. So we're doing that, and you'll get those. And we've also been providing in-service training on contextual teaching and learning. So again, all of our instructors would understand how that academic piece can be embedded and taught within the context of someone's career goals. This is a quick snapshot of what a career pathway roadmap looks like. If I have a little bit of time at the end, I'll go back in and show you that live because each of these blue links is actually a live link. It'll take them out to college programs. It takes them out to the DOE. It takes them out to the United States Department of Labor's Dictionary of Occupations so they can see prospects, wages, working conditions in each of those fields. And it also links directly back to our school website where they can directly link into those CTE program websites and access instructors that way. This has been key, and I'll go back to that. Next steps. Continuing staff development. Our goal is to start out the year with a big focus on contextual teaching and learning. We actually hired Sandy Harwell. Dr. Harwell presented at those career pathway workshops that the DOE sponsored. She's also a presenter at the FACE conference. She'll be at the National Career Pathways Network conference. We'll be presenting this same piece there as well. And she did a great job. She provided some in-service training for our teachers on June 2nd. And we had some participants from Hernando County and Union County here as well. We've also developed some proposals for some bridge programs. Our initial one would be a managed cohort of GED students who are bound or destined to go on to a CNA program. And we're right now pitching that to our workforce board to come up with some funding to scholarship students for the tuition for the CNA program coming out of adult ed. So again, that would be a managed cohort of GED students. Contextual teaching and learning would take place, so when they're working on language and math and reading skills, it would be in the context of a CNA type of curriculum. So they'll actually have all that front-loaded, preloaded before they actually begin the CNA program. And just continuing to build those partnerships, expanding and looking for more opportunities for students. And hey, we're begging for money like everybody else. I'd really like to scholarship that $30. Okay, and again, this is just a model for that contextual teaching and learning. I put some websites at the end where we access some of these. But again, all of our instructors, we're looking at project-based learning, community-based learning, contextual teaching and learning in every one of our classrooms, whether they're adult ed or CTE. And the teachers see those connections. Those teachers who have come from industry and are now instructors, they totally get this. This is where they live. So that's been really helpful. I'll come back to the questions in a minute, but at the end I skipped. There's my contact information, and then also here's some of the resources. We contacted the CORD organization when we wrote our very first grant because we really wanted some guidance on career pathways. We wanted to know for sure if that was the right model for us to develop as a school. It fit best with the CTE programs we already offered. It seemed to fit in really well with the curriculum frameworks on a DOE website. So we adopted that for our program, and then again, now that has been adopted by the DOE, and we're all going to be part of that. So that was a great head start for us in getting focused on the right track. The NASDAQ, it sounds like NASDAQ, it's the National Association of State Directors of CTE. That website has some phenomenal resources, some frames for you to access to build your programs, to build your pathway roadmaps. Of course, the DOE, we're there every day. The National Career Pathways Network, awesome website, links to all kinds of resources as you in-service your teachers, develop your strategic plan that's part of the grant requirement this year. And then there are also some Florida-specific links available through that CTE Works CareerTech.org site that you see there at the bottom. Some data, some tools that you can use to help create buy-in and just and work through that. All right, I'm going to take you really quick to that Career Pathways Roadmap. Let me get out of here real quick and open that for you so you can see what that looks like. The last little piece. And again, you're going to get these in draft. They are not completed. This one I'm showing you right here it's interactive. Now they'll have print copies of these available in student services and in our information center, but also these are going to be available after July on our school website, and they will have the interactive links embedded. So if I'm a student who's interested in the early childhood program, I can go in here and actually see what the program of study looks like, which is through our CTE director here. That's developed and is posted on the web. If they're interested in finding out more about the Early Childhood Certificate Program at WTI, they can click on that, and it'll take them out to the WTI website. And from there, they actually go. They're right there at the web page for that program. It shows them the prereqs, what the industry certification looks like. We're developing links to the articulation agreements, the career pathway roadmap, as well as annual completion rate, the cost of the program if they need any certain materials. There are links here to This is terrific. If they go on and get their AAAS degree, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, we've linked out there to show them all of these different opportunities for information, training requirements, projections, the job outlook, what kind of earnings they can look for in wages, related occupations. It just helps them really see. It opens up the world for them so they can better understand what the opportunities look like. And for a lot of our folks, they just don't know what's out there. And that's probably one of our biggest tasks is helping them see those opportunities. We've linked with some of our other partner schools, and then at the bottom just some additional resources that the students may want to look at. And that's it. So I'm going to turn the mic off for me, and you can either talk with some questions or you can text them in and I'll try to answer some. Okay, I see a question about enrollment. We have open enrollment in all of our programs at this time. However, for a bridge program, our plan is to have a managed enrollment cohort. So for instance, right now I have 4 or 5 students just in the summer program that have already said they're interested in the CNA PCA program. So they're in GED and we're letting them work through GED, but as we have our fall intake of students, those that identify that as a career pathway, we want to get about 18 to 21 of those students and actually place them in a separate GED class. It would run parallel, the time would be parallel, it would run in the evening, but they would be specifically targeted for CNA. The goal would be that they would finish their GED within 3 months, take their GED test on a Wednesday, Thursday, or Thursday, Friday, and the very next Monday they would start their CNA program as a cohort. So they would have taken GED together, studied for GED together, taken the exam together, and they'll start as the first day student in that new CNA class as a cohort of CNA students. What would happen is if the score results came back for the GED test and some of those students didn't pass some of those subtests, they would come back in and be co-enrolled in GED for 1 night a week at the same time or during the day as their schedule permitted, and they would get additional GED prep services while they're continuing in their 3-night-a-week CNA program. So that's in a snapshot what we're looking at for managed enrollment and bridge programs. Any other questions? And I probably missed 1,000 of them, so if you have a question right now, if you'll type it in real quick, I'll be more than happy to answer it. And thanks for the positive feedback. As far as accessing the recording, that's a Macario Yari Payne question. I don't know that, or Kim Gates. I know that they are going to make that available. And again, we'll share as many resources as we can on the CD, and you're welcome to contact me for other information. I see a couple questions. How many students do we serve a year? Combined in all of our programs, between 700 and 800 typically. Again, we're not a huge program, but you know, we're not a real small one either. Again, thanks for the positive feedback. All right, Macario is saying that we'll send the recording out to everyone who registered. So everyone will get that link in an email. So that's the good news. CTE fees for students who do not have their GEDs. That's a concern. And again, we're reaching out to some scholarship partners. Again, I spoke yesterday morning at the Rotary Club. I'm not above begging. If we can show them what we do and how we do it and who we serve, and that we're serving the families of deaf kids in our other schools, and that, you know, that their employment, I think they're more apt to come up with some funds for us, and so far that's happening. And you're welcome, all of you, very welcome. Oh, thanks for that, guys. Time for any last-minute questions before we log off. Yeah, Rotary's awesome with scholarships. They are a service organization, and they really do care about helping folks that are truly in need. And you all are very, very welcome. All right, I'll look for you at ACE. ACE conference will be presenting there. At least we've put in some proposals. I'm guessing we'll probably be presenting. We've submitted 2 proposals, one for career pathways specifically, and another one that is an in-depth sharing super session on our database. And we'll actually take you in kind of behind the scenes and show you how we created some of those fields, changed fields. And that workshop will be showing data reports. So you actually can see how you run those out-of-range TABE score reports, enrollment reports, completion reports, and how you can actually print the transition plan for a student to walk out the door and take with them, as well as you can run that data for your grant deliverables. So we'll look for you at ACE and hope they select us to do a presentation. Question about getting the CD, Yari and Macario tell me that they'll be mailing that out to you via snail mail once you complete your evaluation. And you'll get a link for that in the next, within the next week or so, is what I'm guessing. All right, hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. We're off on Fridays in Citrus County. I'm looking forward to it. And good luck next year. And again, we hope to see you at ACE. Don't hesitate to email or call if you have some information that you missed or you have a question. I'll be glad to talk with you. Also, the invitation is always open. We've had a number of folks come and visit our campus and actually see this in action. And bring it. We'd love to have you come. But we'll be picking your brain too. Thank you, Kim. Appreciate that. All right, have a great weekend, guys. Thanks to Kim and Mario for the behind the scenes.
Have a great weekend.